Hello and welcome to UPSC Warriors by Unacademy. This is Nandini, your educator for the day, who's here with the daily newspaper analysis of the Hindu newspaper. To begin with, I would like to tell all of you that, like every day, we have divided this particular session into two parts. One is specifically catering to the mains orientation, and the other one talking about the prelims perspective, and that might also cater to your other one-day examination. So let us quickly get started. So this is the list of articles that we are going to confirm to, that we are going to analyze with the perspective of means. Of course, they can come into your prelims examinations as well, but we are going to comprehensively discuss these just so we are thorough with whatever the happenings are there in the society. Next up, these are the list of articles that might come as a MCQ question, and it might cater to your prelims as well as other one-day examination, as I stated before. To begin with the first article, we have PSC to take a performance review of regulatory bodies. Now, why this particular article becomes very important is because PSC is the oldest standing committee. It is the oldest parliamentary committee that exists in the current times. What it basically does is it basically investigates it basically investigates the expenditures that are made by the government. It is basically made for this particular purpose, just so the checks and balances are maintained. This particular article is in news because the PSC, headed by the senior Congress leader Shri K.C. Venugopal, he is going to review the regulatory bodies such as TRI, SEBI, and he is also going to assess the expenditures that are basically happening in the public infrastructure. Now, why are we discussing this particular fact? This is just opposition versus government news? No. We need to understand this particular news with the perspective of answer writing. Now, what can be the question in this particular article, from this particular article? It could basically be about PSC. The examiner can ask you what is PSC. So PSC, as we said, is nothing but it is Public Account Committee. This particular committee is the oldest committee. This is something that you all should know. And this committee is made up of 22 members, which is in the proportion of 15 from Lok Sabha and 7 from Rajya Sabha. All of these members are selected by the chairperson of that particular house. So for Lok Sabha, it is going to be the speaker, and for Rajya Sabha, it is the chairperson. Okay. Now, why this particular committee is also important is because it tends to guarantee the checks and balances in the government. Although it is an advisory body, but it is of greatest importance for the very fact that this particular committee does not consist of any person who is in power as a minister of government. So this particular committee would majorly and mainly comprise of only the people who are in the opposition, just to avoid what? Just to avoid a situation of bias. And hence this particular committee comes into consideration that this makes the government in power accountable. This particular committee makes the government in power very, very accountable, and hence for a democracy like ours, this particular committee is very, very important. So PAC is the parliamentary committee which is oldest, that we all have discussed. It is somewhere it was formed somewhere here, and we have completed more than 100 years of its existence. Hence, it is known as the oldest committee. And this particular committee gets the support of the CAG, which is the Comptroller and Auditor General, who helps this particular committee to audit the reports and expenditures. So that's when we complete the discussion about this particular article. All you need to have in mind, have in your mindset with this particular pretext as an article is the very fact that we need to comprehensively read about PAC, because PAC is something that can now be asked in your mains examination, also in your prelims examination. Next up, we have this particular article which talks about the income inequality. Now, income inequality was one more article that, like, this particular article is related to economics, we all know, and this is coming into news for like past 2 days now. This particular article that is being talked about in here pertains to address the problem of unemployment and gaps in income due to automation and artificial intelligence. This particular article pertains to majorly talk about only these factors that we have been discussing for like past 2 days now. Now, what is the new thing that has come up in here? Just so we have made it mandatory or even considered it to discuss it today is two things. Number one is inheritance tax. Number one is inheritance tax. And number two is basic income, or I should say universal basic income, which is UBI. So because of the fact that these particular two terms are mentioned in the article today, I have taken out this article yet again for discussion. So what this particularly says, this particular article, consider it to be a way forward. This particular article can be considered as a way forward, as it comes up with the two things that could be considered just to ensure that the gap in income is decreased. Now let us talk about how these two terms are related to decreasing the gap in income. So inheritance tax. Inheritance tax is a tax that is levied on the property that is inherited. The name itself is very explanatory in nature in itself, that this particular tax is applied on the property that is inherited, on the articles, commodities that is inherited. Now, why is that? It is because of the fact that the richer are becoming richer and the poorer are becoming poorer. Just to address this particular thing, the the author has come up with the idea of inheritance tax, so that there is some sort of equity that exists in the current paradigm with respect to the income, with respect to the commodities, and with respect to the wealth that people have. Hence, this particular term becomes very important and mandatory to be discussed, just so we can also think of we can also put on our thinking hats and think about the way forwards in these lines. Second thing that the author has talked about is universal basic income, which is UBI. Universal basic income is nothing but a sort of what should I say, an income or a salary which is basically provided to everyone who is in the employable range, who is in the employable range. So anyone and everyone who is the part of the employment age range, who is the part of the workforce, can be provided with a universal basic income. Of course, this pertains to only address the people who are in the dire need of it, and hence would only be talking about a certain amount that would be deposited in their bank accounts, just so the income gap could be addressed. But these two particular things are the ones that are suggested as a way forward to decrease this. And even if the reliance on automation and artificial intelligence increases, these particular tasks could help us in decreasing the income gaps. Of course, this comes up with its own challenges at the same time, wherein for basic income, we would need to comprehensively look forward to who is in a need of it and who is not. And for inheritance tax, we have to again go on ground and check up as to if people are not cheating, because there in this country there are people who cut down on the taxes just by showing wrong balance sheets and whatnot malpractices are going on. Hence it becomes important that while we talk about this, we also think about the stakeholders, we also think about a strategy as to how we are going to implement it and how we are going to go about it and in what direction. So even after this has come up as a way forward, the government needs to think as to if this can necessarily be implemented or not. Moving on to the next article, we have uh, an article that addresses to the international relations basically. And for now, I think India and Africa is in discussion for long. As in yesterday, also, I think we got an article that was about some uh, pact that dealt with the very fact that in the time of contingencies for evacuation purposes under the deep waters, India is going to help South Africa. And yet again, we have got another article which tends to talk about the mineral mission that was recently announced by the finance minister while while she was discussing the budget of 2024-25. So what this mission basically talks about, so this mission was like came into being while making the amendment in the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act of 1957 that would remove 6 minerals from the atomic list, thus allowing the private sector to explore in these particular realms. So this particular relaxation was made just so the Indians can explore a little more. Now why this particular article is being discussed in context to Africa is because we as a country, we in the current times are not so much so mineral sufficient that we can keep on mining, that we can keep on extracting a lot out of the core of this earth, or like from our area. And hence we have made this particular thing in mind as to considering Africa for this particular mission, because Africa consists of close to 30%. Africa consists of close to 30% of our mineral reserves, and hence it would be a very resourceful say MOU agreement, whatever is being signed, and collaborating with them would also help us in achieving our mineral mission, because it is of vital importance as of now. We are looking for lithium reserves, we are looking for critical minerals, we are looking for minerals that are otherwise not found. And hence moving in a direction, collaborating with a country that is already on a friendlier terms with us is something that is the need of the hour. There is one more joint venture that is being talked about in here for the lithium reserves, which is Khanij Videsh India Limited, which mostly is abbreviated as KABIL and was founded in 2019. This was an agreement for the exploration of lithium in the province of Argentina, and that is what is majorly being talked about in this particular article is explicitly focusing on Africa. We are talking about here in this because our international ties for the very purpose of, say, crude oil, for the purpose of minerals, other minerals, of course, and for the purpose of other exports that we are making. Basically, if we consider the current times, then corn, steel from Vietnam, and semiconductors from China. All of this comes into account while we consider our international relation, our international ties with respect to bringing in material into our country. Because in order to explore it a lot more, we need to explore it at the very primary stage. And if we don't have it at the very first place, then what is the point? Where are we going to get even started? And hence it becomes important that with the purpose of our IR, with the purpose of our friendly ties, we make the best use out of all of these opportunities for collaboration. So we can talk to people, we can have bilateral ties, we can be open to collaboration, we can make people be open to collaboration, because that's the diplomacy that we practice. And for achieving this particular goal while also addressing and thinking about the climate change and sustainable development goals, it is very important that we go into a direction wherein we have an expertise with us, just so we don't waste a lot of resources and a lot of time in going about the process that majorly requires a little bit guidance, and we'll crack it. Moving on to the next article, we have an article that pertains to talk about the loss and damage fund, which was uh, introduced basically in the UNFCCC COP28 Europe this year. So what this fund, COP27 it is, what this fund particularly talks about, this fund majorly talks about how the developing nation, it is very important, the key term in here is how the developing nations, when struck with a calamity, majorly face a lot of damages, a lot of losses in the form of economic and non-economic losses. So the LDF basically pertains to address these two losses that are majorly being caused to a country due to what? Due to a calamity. That is majorly being talked about in here, that while we talk about a calamity, while we talk about the disasters that are occurring, they come up with a drainage of resources, as in they swoosh away the resources that we have. And hence it becomes important that we have an account that majorly deals with the losses that are being caused due to such calamities, which in turn are caused due to climate change and global warming. So this particular, like this account, this accounts trustee, this account is handled by the World Bank, because of course it pertains to deal with a lot of countries at the same time, and this World Bank only makes sure that the amount is being sent to the countries as and when they need it, as and when it is required, so that they can particularly come up with and recover from whatever the losses have occurred here. Now, with respect to this article, wherein it is explicitly being talked about Kerala as to it can or it cannot, extract the funds. So that is being talked in about in here. So in this particular article, it is mentioned that the center basically cannot decide upon a lot of things. The majority of the work that can be done with respect to the things that are happening in a state can only be dealt with the help of a state government. And even like we have seen, Kerala has proven to recover a lot many times from such calamities, such natural disasters on its own. Hence, this article is being talked about as to this particular initiative of LDF can be integrated with nothing but the state government to provide funds so that the economies or the countries, states can bounce back from the situation very conveniently, because it becomes important that for a developing country that they are resilient, they are disaster prepared, and they also do have the resources to balance out the situation at a later period of time. And that is when this particular article becomes important, because LDF is something that we have got as a supporter, and if required we can always use it. And the path that can go about is, of course, a little bit hierarchy is existing in this particular aspect, but then that is something that could, help us all recover from something that we did not ask for. Let's move to our prelims oriented articles. So this is the very first article. I have mentioned this keeping in mind the one day examination for sure. So what can be asked in here is that ISRO ISRO has recently launched a book whose name is Exploring New Frontiers to the Moon, the Sun, and Beyond. What this particular article majorly talks about, the development that have taken place in the field of science and tech, particularly dealing with space tech. It pertains to reflect on the situation of India that was way back to the current times with appropriate examples, pictures from ISRO that might address to various missions that have taken place over the time. These people in particular say that we have many more things to achieve as of now, but this indeed is a set milestone that required the attention of the citizens, that required the attention of the nation, and hence this particular book was launched. This particular book's publication is the Hindu group only, and this was launched by these people, which, like, this information is particularly not important. What is important to us for the purpose of our examination is the name of the book, which is Exploring New Frontiers from to the Moon, the Sun, and Beyond. Next up, we have next for IU students to apply from 2021-22 batch. What is next? So next is nothing but national exit test. This particular test is conducted for the licensure and practice of the AYUSH doctors. When does this occur? This licensure and practice. So post they have cleared this test, post the doctors who are associated with the field of AYUSH basically have completed or cleared this test, they have to go for a 1 year rigorous internship in the field of clinical setting, and that is only when they can claim their licensure and right to practice. This particular test is now applicable from the batch of 2021-22, and it will in particularly be dealing with the practice identity of the Ayush doctors. Now, for the people who have not completed the 1 year internship, they have to, because that is something which is made mandatory by the government. So, post clearing the examination and the 1 year internship, what will be done is that these people will be registered as practitioners. And this would happen, I'm reiterating it again and again, this would majorly happen when these two conditions are fulfilled. Next up, we have joint military vision. So this joint military vision, we had another article yesterday that, like today, the defense minister is speaking about the joint military mission. Yesterday, we had the CDS of this country, of the defense forces. He's speaking about the integrative approach. So why this becomes important? This becomes important because the terrestrial, the waters, and the sky, all of the defenses, when they'll come together, they are surely be going to address a lot of problem, and be prepared for whatever is coming next. Because it is only when that these three forces will integrate and work, that the people can necessarily do a lot of things. People can necessarily address a lot of upcoming dangers per se. Say if there are people who are hawking an eye upon us via the means of waters or sky or terrestrial land. So that's when this particular strategy will come into account. Also, the defense minister said that we need to integrate, like this is integration of the three forces. At the same time, they also talk about that we also need to integrate artificial intelligence, because technological advancement is something that would make us stand apart, that would help us, make, develop, and grow our particular defense forces with the perspective of technology and with the perspective of the worldview, how they see us. So these are all the articles that were required to be covered, that required your attention for that matter. And I hope this session was of some help to all of you. If in case you need some more explanations with regards to other articles, you can send us the articles and we'll make sure that we are going to write back to you with those particular explanations. And if in case this particular initiative is liked by all of you, do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and also comment on our particular channel. And do not forget to press the bell icon, as that would keep you posted with everything and anything that we do on our channel. With this is me, Nandini, signing off with today's newspaper analysis. Thank you so much.